Maya Whitfield was 34 years old when she found the hotel receipt in her husband's jacket pocket, dated a night he swore he'd spend at his mother's house. She said nothing. She simply filed it away, the same way she filed every inconsistency that crossed her desk at the insurance office, where she'd spent 12 years catching people who thought they were smarter than the evidence. 3 days later, Damon sat her down in their kitchen and told her he wanted a divorce. He called her cold, obsessed with her spreadsheets. He said she'd never really supported his dreams, the same dreams built on a hidden account he didn't know she'd already found. Then he zipped his suitcase, looked her dead in the eye, and said the words he was certain would break her. "You'll never survive without me. I built the life you have." Maya didn't cry. She didn't argue. She simply watched him walk out the door and started counting the days. Before we dive in, comment where you're watching from today, and if stories like this speak to you, hit subscribe, because tomorrow's story is even more intense. The claim was for a stolen pickup truck, $47,000, a clean police report, photos of an empty driveway, a tearful phone call from the claimant, a Mr. Gerald Hoyt, who had described in precise detail how he'd come outside on a Tuesday morning to find his truck simply gone. It should have been straightforward. Maya Whitfield didn't do straightforward. She sat at her desk on the 4th floor of Meridian Insurance's downtown Atlanta office, reading the file for the 3rd time. Her coffee had gone cold an hour ago. She hadn't touched it. Around her, the office hummed, keyboards clicking, a printer grinding, 2 colleagues laughing about something near the break room. Maya heard none of it. She was looking at the mileage discrepancy. Gerald Hoyt had reported his truck stolen on a Tuesday, but the odometer photo he'd submitted with his initial policy paperwork, taken just 6 weeks earlier, showed 14,000 miles. The police report listed the vehicle's last known mileage at 11,300, pulled from an oil change record he'd attached himself, thinking it helped his case. The truck had lost nearly 3,000 miles between oil changes. Trucks didn't do that. Maya circled the number in red pen. Neat, small, the kind of circle that meant, got you. "You still on the Hoyt file?" Her colleague Derek leaned against the cubicle wall, jacket already on. It was 5:15. "Simmons signed off on it this morning." "I know he did," Maya said. "So what's the problem?" She turned the folder around and pointed to the circled number. Derek squinted, then straightened up. "Oh, someone ran the plate last month in Chattanooga," Maya said. "I requested the traffic camera pull. Should be here by end of week, but the mileage alone is enough to flag it." She closed the folder. "The truck isn't stolen, Derek. It's hidden." Derek let out a low whistle. "You know Simmons is going to be embarrassed." "Simmons should have looked closer." She said it without malice, just fact. She filed the flag, shut down her computer, and pulled on her coat. The drive home took 25 minutes on a good night. Tonight, the highway was thick with red brake lights, and Maya sat in the crawl with the radio off, running the Hoyt file through her mind one more time. Not because she doubted herself, because it was habit. Check again. Then check what you missed the first time. Their house in Brookhaven was a gray Craftsman with white trim and a magnolia tree in the front yard that Damon had once called a selling point and Maya had simply called beautiful. The lights were already on when she pulled in. Damon's black BMW sat in the driveway at a slight angle, like he'd parked in a hurry. Inside, the kitchen smelled like takeout, Thai by the lemongrass. Damon was at the kitchen island, still in his work clothes, jacket off, tie loose. He was holding his phone low and close to his chest, the way people held things they didn't want seen, and when Maya walked in, he flipped it face down before looking up. "Hey," he smiled. Easy. Wide. She set her bag on the chair. "Hey." "Grabbed food. Didn't know when you'd be back." He nodded toward the paper bags on the counter. "There's curry in there somewhere." "Thank you." She washed her hands at the sink, watching the water. Behind her, she heard the soft click of his phone being slid into his pocket. They ate at the island. Damon talked. He had a rhythm to it, a practiced ease. He was working a development project in Decatur, 14 units, 2 commercial spaces on the ground floor. He'd met with the investors again today, and they loved the concept. He used the word vision 3 times. He used the word legacy once. Maya ate her curry and listened the way she always did, steadily, without interrupting. "You'd have gotten a kick out of this guy, Reynolds," Damon said, dragging a spring roll through the peanut sauce. "Walks in trying to tell me about my market. 12 years younger than me and already acts like he invented mixed use." He laughed, sharp, just slightly too loud. "What did you say?" Maya asked. "I let the numbers do the talking." He pointed at her with the spring roll. "That's the difference between me and these guys. They talk. I build." Maya nodded. Damon leaned back and stretched, the picture of ease. "How was your thing? Any exciting claims today?" He said exciting the way people said it about something they'd already decided couldn't be. "I caught a fraud case," she said. He was looking at his phone again, tilted away from her. "Good. That's good, babe." She watched him for a moment. The gym bag by the door, 3rd time this week. The new protein powder on the counter he hadn't explained. The vagueness of last Thursday night. Just drinks with the guys, no names offered. She noticed. She always noticed. She just didn't speak yet. Later, she was hanging his jacket in the front closet when something fluttered from the inner pocket and landed on the hardwood floor. A receipt. Small. Folded once. The Westin Hotel, Buckhead. Room 412. Last Friday. Maya picked it up. Read it once. Read it again. Friday was the night Damon had come home at 11, kissed her on the cheek, and told her he'd been at his mother's. She stood very still in the closet doorway, the receipt pinched between 2 fingers, and said nothing at all. But her mind had already opened a new file. Maya put the receipt back in the jacket pocket. She hung the jacket up. She closed the closet door. She went to bed. She did not sleep. In the morning, Damon showered, made coffee, kissed her on the top of her head, and left by 7:30. His gym bag was gone again. She stood at the kitchen window and watched his BMW reverse out of the driveway, and she waited until the sound of his engine faded completely before she sat down at the kitchen table with her laptop. She opened their joint bank account first. 12 years of statements, direct deposits, mortgage payments, groceries, utilities, the ordinary math of a shared life. She wasn't looking for anything dramatic. She was looking for a pattern that didn't fit. She found it in 11 minutes. 8 months ago, in October, there had been a transfer. $900 moved out of their joint checking into an account she didn't recognize. The routing number was the same bank. The account number was not one she had ever seen. She stared at it. Then she scrolled back further, found another transfer 2 weeks before that. $400. Then another in September. $600. Small enough to disappear under grocery totals and utility bills and the general noise of 2 people's shared finances. She had never looked this closely before. She had trusted. She pulled out her notebook, the narrow one she used for complex claims at work, and started writing down dates and amounts in 2 clean columns. By the time she reached the most recent entry, the total came to $38,400. She sat with that number for a long moment. $38,400. Pulled out in pieces, slowly, like someone draining a bathtub 1 cup at a time so nobody heard the water running. She closed the laptop. She picked up her phone and called Tobias. He answered on the 2nd ring. "You're calling early." "I need you to listen and not react," Maya said. A beat. Tobias knew her well enough to know what that meant. "Okay, talk." She told him about the receipt first, then the account. She read him the total from her notebook, her voice steady, the same voice she used when she walked a client through a denied claim. Tobias didn't interrupt. When she finished, the line was quiet for 3 full seconds. "You haven't said anything to him," he said. Not a question. "No." "Good." His voice shifted. Lawyer now, not just brother. "Maya, don't say a word. Not yet. If he knows you're looking, he'll start moving things." I know that. I mean it. Not a look, not a question, nothing that puts him on guard. A pause. You need more than a receipt and a transfer history. You need a pattern you can prove. I know that too, she said quietly. That's why I'm calling you. She could hear him exhale. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I need to know where he's going. She told Damon over dinner that she had a work conference in Savannah, 2 days starting tomorrow, a training on updated compliance standards. She kept it boring on purpose because boring was believable, and because Damon's eyes went slightly flat whenever she talked about work, which meant he stopped listening. That's fine, he said, already reaching for his phone. I'll probably stay late at the office anyway. Big push on the Decatur project. Sure, she said. She drove to AutoZone the next morning and bought a GPS tracker, the kind her company sometimes used for fleet monitoring on commercial claims. She'd filled out the paperwork on enough of them to know exactly how they worked. She attached it underneath the rear bumper of the family's second car, a silver Honda Accord registered in both their names, and she texted Damon that afternoon. Insurance company is running a telematics pilot, saves up to 12% on the premium. Put a monitoring tag on the Accord. Let me know if you end up driving it while I'm gone. He sent back a thumbs-up emoji, didn't ask a single question. She checked into a hotel 7 miles from their house and ordered room service, and sat on the bed with her laptop and her notebook and the GPS tracking app open in a browser tab. She watched the small blue dot sit still in their driveway until 8:47 that night. Then it moved. She tracked it through Brookhaven, down Peachtree, across Midtown, until it stopped in a complex off Piedmont Road. The dot didn't move again. She sat with it for 20 minutes, just watching, making sure. Then she got in her car. The complex was called Ashford Place. Clean brick buildings, outdoor lighting, a small fountain near the entrance that wasn't running. Damon's car was in the second row of the lot, parked neatly, engine cold. Maya sat in her own car across the street with the engine off. She looked up at the lit windows on the 3rd floor. There were 2 of them in the frame. Damon, still in his work shirt, and a younger woman, dark hair, laughing at something he'd said, close enough that their shoulders touched. Maya raised her phone, took the photo, steady hands. Then she drove home. He came home on a Tuesday. Maya heard the garage door before she heard him. She was at the kitchen table with a claims file spread open in front of her, a yellow legal pad beside it, red pen in her hand. She didn't move the papers. Damon walked in, still wearing his jacket, tie loosened, jaw tight in a way she recognized. He looked like a man who had already decided something and was running the speech in his head. She waited. "We need to talk," he said. "Okay." He stayed standing. That was the tell. When Damon wanted control of a conversation, he stood and made you look up at him. She had noticed that years ago and never said anything about it. "I'm not happy, Maya." He said it like a diagnosis, like something he'd looked up online and confirmed. "I haven't been happy for a long time." She set down her pen. "Is that right? I feel like I'm living with a roommate. You're always in your spreadsheets. You're always working. You never ask about my deals. You never—" He stopped, regrouped. "You're cold. You've been cold for years. I don't think you even notice." She said nothing. He took that silence as guilt, she could tell. His shoulders loosened slightly. "I want a divorce." The words landed in the kitchen like something dropped from a shelf. She let them sit there. "I think we've grown apart," he continued. "And I think I need something different. I need someone who actually supports what I'm building." She looked at him for a long moment. 12 years of his face. She thought about the receipt in his jacket pocket, the $38,400, the silver Honda parked across the street from Ashford Place at 11 o'clock at night. "All right," she said. He blinked. That wasn't what he had expected. He had expected crying or begging or an argument he could win. He went upstairs to pack. She heard the closet opening and closing, drawers sliding, the zip of his duffel bag. She stayed at the table. She picked up her red pen and made a notation in the margin of the claims file. Her handwriting was neat and even. He came back down 40 minutes later with a duffel over one shoulder and his laptop bag over the other. He stopped in the kitchen doorway. "You're not even going to fight for this," he said. He almost sounded offended. "No," she said. Something moved across his face, something that might have been guilt if he'd been a different kind of man, but it hardened fast. His chin came up. "You'll never survive without me," he said. "I built the life you have. This house, the cars, everything. You should think about that." Maya looked at him. "Good night, Damon." He left. She listened to the garage door go down. Then she sat in the quiet kitchen for a long time, her hand flat on the table, and let herself feel it. All of it. The whole weight of 12 years collapsing into one Tuesday night. She gave herself that. She was not made of stone, but she did not fall apart. The first month was the hardest, not because she missed him exactly, but because the house felt loud in a way that was new, full of silence that used to be noise she had learned not to hear. She cried twice, both times alone, both times briefly. Then she made coffee and went back to work. She reached out to her old supervisor and picked up freelance consulting work. 2 clients became 4 within 6 weeks. She was good at it. She had always been good at it. She called Priya. Priya Malhotra had been her best friend since a graduate school study group 12 years ago. A small, sharp woman with quick eyes and a laugh like a car starting on a cold morning. Life and Damon had quietly pushed them apart over the years, in the way he pushed apart anything that made Maya feel less dependent on him. Now Priya came over on a Thursday evening with takeout containers and a bottle of wine, and they sat on Maya's living room floor until after midnight, talking the way they used to. And something in Maya's chest loosened that she hadn't realized was clenched. Priya was a forensic accountant. She worked fraud cases, and 3 weeks in, over the phone, she mentioned casually that she'd heard through a professional contact that a mid-sized development project in Decatur had run into serious financing issues. The developer involved was behind on 2 contractor payments. She said the name of the project. Maya recognized it immediately. 2 weeks after that, Priya mentioned, just as casually, that the same developer seemed to be having some personal difficulties as well. A colleague had heard he was renting a room, that his girlfriend was asking questions about money he apparently didn't have. Maya filed both pieces of information in the back of her mind. She started therapy. She got a good night's sleep for the first time in months. She relearned what it felt like to eat dinner without bracing for something. 3 months to the day after he left, the doorbell rang at 7:14 in the evening. She looked through the peephole first. Damon stood on the front porch, looking like he'd lost 15 pounds he couldn't afford to lose. His jacket was wrinkled. His eyes were tired. He was holding nothing. No flowers, no anything. Just standing there with his hands at his sides. She opened the door. "Renee asked me to leave," he said. His voice was different. The practiced confidence was gone. What was underneath it was smaller. The deal fell through. Everything kind of... He stopped, swallowed. "I made a mistake, Maya. I know I did. I need to come home." She looked at him for a long, quiet moment. "I'll think about it," she said. She closed the door, locked it, walked straight to the kitchen table, picked up her phone, and called Tobias. He answered on the first ring. "Now we move," she said. She called him the next morning at 9. She stood at the kitchen window while the phone rang, watching a cardinal sit on the back fence, red against bare wood, perfectly still. Damon picked up on the 3rd ring. "Maya?" "I've been thinking," she said. Her voice was even, unhurried. "I don't want to make any decisions while things are still emotional. I think we should talk." A pause. Then, carefully, like a man stepping onto ice. Yeah, I agree. Come for dinner Thursday. We can sit down and go through everything calmly." She let a small silence fall before she added, "I just want to understand what happened." She could hear him breathing. She could hear him deciding whether to believe her. "Okay," he said. "Thursday. 7 o'clock. She hung up. The cardinal was still on the fence. She watched it for another moment, then turned away from the window. Priya arrived that afternoon with her laptop bag over one shoulder and a banker's box tucked under her arm. She set both on the kitchen table without being asked, and pulled out her chair like she'd been working there for years. "All right," she said, flipping open her laptop. "Walk me through what you already have." Maya laid it out. The printed bank statements showing the second checking account, the screenshots of the withdrawals. $38,400 moved in increments of $3,000 and $5,000 over 7 months. The hotel receipt, the GPS timestamps from the tracker, the photograph of Damon's car outside Ashford Place. Priya looked at each piece carefully. She didn't say anything until she had seen all of it. "This is good," she said. "This builds intent and pattern." She tapped the bank statements. "But I want to go deeper. I want to look at the property records." "Why property records?" Priya looked at her. "Because when someone drains a joint account and needs more money, the next place they usually look is equity." She opened a browser tab. "What's the address?" They worked for 2 days. Priya pulled the county property records on the house. She cross-referenced them against the mortgage servicer's records Maya had access to through their joint account portal. She printed documents and spread them across the table in a careful grid. She used sticky notes and a fine point marker to connect dates and amounts. Maya sat beside her and read everything twice. On the afternoon of the second day, Priya went very quiet. That particular kind of quiet Maya had come to recognize. Not distracted, but focused. The way a person gets when they have found the thing they were looking for and are making absolutely sure before they say it out loud. "Maya?" Priya set down her marker. "Come look at this." Maya leaned in. It was a refinancing document filed with the county 6 months ago, a second mortgage on the house. The loan amount was $85,000. It listed both Damon and Maya Whitfield as co-borrowers. Maya had never signed anything. She looked at her signature on the document. She knew her own signature. She had written it thousands of times on thousands of forms. She knew the way she looped the M and the way the W flattened at the end. This was close. Someone had studied it. But it was not hers. "He forged it," she said. The words came out flat and quiet. "Yes." Priya pulled up a second document. "And here's where the money went." She pointed to a transfer record she had pulled from the filing. $52,000 to a business account registered to a Renee Holloway. And the remaining balance, here, moved into the same LLC that was backing the Decatur Development Project. Maya sat back in her chair. $85,000, borrowed against her house, without her knowledge or consent, her name written on a document she had never touched. She thought about the night he stood in the kitchen doorway with his duffel bag over his shoulder. "I built the life you have, this house, the cars, everything." Her house, mortgaged with her forged signature to fund his girlfriend's boutique and his failing development deal. She let herself feel the full weight of that for exactly 1 minute. The anger came up clean and cold, like water from a deep well. Then she set it aside. "What does this mean legally?" she asked. "Mortgage fraud," Priya said. "Forgery of a financial instrument. Both are felony-level charges. This isn't just a dirty divorce, Maya. This is a crime." Maya nodded once. She stood up. They printed everything, the refinancing document with the forged signature, the transfer records, the second account statements, the GPS logs, and the hotel receipt. Priya organized it in chronological order and slid it all into a single manila folder, neat and complete, the way a file looks when it is ready to be used. Maya sat back down. She put the folder in her lap. She held it with both hands, and for a moment she just sat there, feeling the weight of it. Not the paper, but what it meant. Then she picked up her phone and called Tobias. He answered before the second ring. "I need you to look at something," she said. "Damon forged my signature on a second mortgage. $85,000. I have everything documented." A pause. Then Tobias said, quietly and very carefully, "Send it to me tonight." "Already printing the second copy," she said. Odessa Whitfield lived 20 minutes outside the city, in a brick ranch house on a wide, flat lot that she had owned for 40 years. The grass was always cut. The flower beds along the front walk were always edged clean. Everything about the property said, "Someone pays attention here." Maya pulled into the driveway on a Thursday morning, 3 days after she had sent the documents to Tobias. She sat in the car for a moment before getting out. She had a small container of almond cookies in her lap, Odessa's favorite, wrapped in a paper bag from the bakery on Fenton Street. She was not here to fall apart. She was not here to cry on an old woman's shoulder. But Odessa didn't need to know that yet. The door opened before Maya reached the porch. Odessa Whitfield was 68 years old, small, and built like someone who had never once been moved by a thing she didn't choose to be moved by. Her silver hair was pinned back. Her housecoat was pressed. She had reading glasses pushed up on her forehead and a dish towel folded over one arm, and she looked at Maya the way she always had, steady, measuring, without performance. "I figured you'd come," Odessa said, not unkindly, just plainly. "I brought cookies," Maya said. "I see that." Odessa stepped back from the door. "Come in." The house smelled like coffee and cedar. A small television murmured from the back room. Odessa led her to the kitchen, poured 2 cups without asking, and set the cookies on a plate like they had done this 100 times, which they had not. In 12 years of marriage, Maya had visited this house maybe 15 times, always with Damon, always brief. Odessa sat across from her and folded her hands around her mug. "How are you holding up?" Maya asked. "I'm fine." Odessa looked at her evenly. "How are you holding up? And I'm asking the real version, not the polite one." Maya wrapped both hands around her cup. "I'm managing." "That's not the same as fine." "No," Maya said. "It isn't." Odessa nodded like that was the right answer. She picked up a cookie, broke it in half, and set both pieces down on the edge of the plate. "He called me," she said. "Damon. About 3 weeks after he left you. Told me it was mutual. Told me you two had grown apart." Maya said nothing. "I told him that was interesting," Odessa said, "because you had always seemed perfectly fine to me. He was the one always growing away from things." She said it the way you say something you have believed for a long time, quietly, without heat. "I know my grandson, Maya. I've known him since he was 8 years old, crying because another boy at school got a better birthday present than he did. That boy never did figure out that the problem was inside himself." The kitchen was very still. Outside, a lawnmower started up somewhere down the street. "Can I ask you something?" Maya said. "That's why you're here." Maya looked at her. "The family trust. Damon has talked about it for years. He's told people close to him, that it's going to set him up, that it's his future." She kept her voice level. "I need to understand what that actually means." Odessa looked at her for a long moment. Then she reached over, picked up both halves of the cookie, and set one in front of Maya. "That trust doesn't vest to him for 6 more years," she said. "And it only vests if he meets the conditions I set when I had it drawn up. He has to remain married. He has to remain, in the language of the document, a person of good standing. She said the phrase with a slight, dry emphasis, which means no criminal conduct, no fraud, no behavior that I, as trustee, determine to be a violation of the family's integrity. Maya processed that slowly. He's been telling people that money is coming. Soon. I know what he's been telling people. Odessa's voice did not rise, it just got a little more precise. He's been telling Renee Holloway that he has a fortune waiting on him. I know about her. I've known about her for 8 months. She picked up her coffee. I've known about the account he opened. I've known his development deal was a house of cards from the start. I hear things, Maya. People in this family talk. Why didn't you say anything? Odessa set her mug down. She looked at Maya directly. Because you needed to come to me yourself. Not because someone sent you. Not because Damon dragged you here. On your own. She paused. And you did. The lawnmower outside cut off. The kitchen went quiet again. I have been waiting, Odessa said, for you to walk through that door for months. Maya felt something shift in her chest. Not grief. Something older and steadier than grief. She kept her hands flat on the table. Odessa reached across and covered Maya's hand with her own. Her grip was firm and dry and certain. Tell me what you need, Odessa said. I am going to help you, not because I feel sorry for you. She said it plainly, without softening it. Because I have always respected you more than I respect that boy, and it is past time he understood what that means. Maya looked at the old woman across the table. All right, she said, then let's talk. The flowers were tulips, yellow ones. Damon stood in her doorway holding them like a man who had practiced the gesture in a mirror. His shirt was pressed, his jaw was clean-shaven. He smelled like the cologne she had bought him 2 Christmases ago, and she noticed that, the way she noticed everything, quietly and without letting it show. I know I should have called first, he said. You should have, Maya said. He exhaled through his nose. I wanted to see you. I've been thinking a lot. About everything. He held out the tulips. These are for you. She took them. She stepped back from the door. Come in. He sat at the kitchen table while she put the tulips in water. She kept her back to him for a moment, arranging the stems, giving herself 2 full seconds to breathe. He is a man who thinks he is charming his way back. Let him think that. She turned and sat across from him. I've been looking into therapy, he said. He leaned forward, both elbows on the table, hands clasped. It was the posture of a man who wanted to look humble. A couples counselor. Somebody good. I don't want to just talk about it, Maya. I want to actually fix it. That's a big step, she said. I know. He nodded slowly. I know it is. And I know I said things when I left that He stopped, pressed his lips together. I said some cruel things. That wasn't fair. She watched him. Which things? He blinked. He hadn't expected her to ask him to name them. Just the way I talked to you, before I left. What I said at the door. What did you say at the door, Damon? A short pause. I said you wouldn't survive without me. He looked down at his hands. I didn't mean it. Okay, she said. He looked up. That's it? Just okay? I'm still processing, she said. Give me time. He exhaled like he'd been holding his breath. Of course. Yes. Whatever you need. He reached across the table and touched the back of her hand. Light, brief. She did not pull away. I just need you to know I'm serious. I'm not the same guy who walked out of here. She smiled at him, small, measured, the smile of a woman who was considering the possibility. She had learned how to make that face over the past 2 weeks. She had practiced it. Over the following days, she let him in. Not all the way, just enough. She returned his calls within a few hours. She met him for coffee once, at a place near his rental, and let him talk about the therapy appointment he claimed to have scheduled. She asked a few soft questions. She nodded at the right moments. She gave him just enough warmth to keep him close, and just enough distance to keep him working for it. He never once asked how she was doing. Not really. He talked about his feelings, his mistakes, his process. When she offered something small about her own life, he redirected within 2 sentences. She counted the first time. 1 sentence about herself. Then his voice again, filling the space. She filed that away, too. Priya called on a Tuesday afternoon. "I need you to come over," she said. "Tonight. Don't bring Damon." Maya didn't ask questions. She just came. Priya's dining room table looked the way it always did when she was deep in something. Covered in printouts, color-coded tabs, 2 empty coffee mugs pushed to one side. She had her reading glasses on and her hair pulled back, and she pointed Maya to the chair beside her without preamble. "Phone records first," Priya said, sliding a page across. "This is the number Damon's been texting since he came back to you. 41 messages in 9 days. She tapped the top of the page. "That's Renee's number. I cross-checked it against the records from the joint account period." Maya looked at the page. She said nothing. "He's been seeing her again," Priya said. "Not every day, but enough. He's keeping her close. My read is she's his backup. If you don't take him back, he wants Renee warm and waiting." She paused. "He is playing both of you at the same time." Maya set the page down. "What else?" Priya hesitated for just a second. Then she slid over a second stack of papers, thicker than the first. "These are messages. Email threads. Some texts that got pulled in the same sweep. They go back 14 months. She looked at Maya. "I want to prepare you." "I don't need to be prepared," Maya said. "Show me." She read them at Priya's table first. Then Priya printed a clean copy, and Maya took it home. She sat at her own kitchen table at 10:30 at night and read them again. In message after message, in emails to colleagues, in text threads with 2 of Damon's closest friends, the story was the same. Maya was holding him back. Maya didn't believe in him. Maya was too rigid, too cautious, too consumed with her little job to support his vision. One message, sent to a colleague named Brett 13 months ago, read, "She has no idea what it takes to actually build something. I've been carrying this marriage for years. 14 months of it. Before Renee, before the secret account, before any of it. Not a stumble, not a weak moment. A decision he had been living inside of for over a year." Maya finished reading. She closed her laptop. She sat in the quiet kitchen with the yellow tulips in the vase on the counter, still bright, still fresh. Then she picked up her phone and called Tobias. "It's time," she said. "Let's finalize the plan." Tobias spread everything across Maya's kitchen table like he was laying out a case file for court, which, in a way, he was. He had driven over straight from his office, still in his suit, and he didn't waste time with small talk. He set down his briefcase, opened it, and started pulling out folders. "Walk me through it," he said. "Everything. In order." Priya went first. She pulled up the joint account records on her laptop and turned the screen so Tobias could see. "Second checking account. Opened 8 months before he left," she said, pointing to the highlighted rows. $38,400 moved through it across 6 months. The withdrawals tracked to 2 destinations. She slid a printed page in front of him. Renee's boutique and Damon's development project. Tobias studied the page without speaking. His jaw was tight. "Then there's this." Priya placed the mortgage documents in front of him next. Clean copies, flagged in 3 places with small orange tabs. Second mortgage on the house, signed 8 weeks before he moved out. Maya's signature is on page 4. Tobias flipped to it. I didn't sign that, Maya said. I know you didn't, Priya said. I pulled the original from the county recorder's office. The pen pressure is inconsistent. The signature loops differently than anything Maya signed in the same period. I compared it against her actual signature on the joint account documents from the same month. She set 2 pages side by side. It's not even close. Tobias was quiet for a moment. He picked up both pages and looked at them the way he looked at everything, carefully, without rushing. Then he set them down and looked at Maya. He forged this to fund a failing project and a woman he was sleeping with. Yes, Maya said. Something moved across his face, just briefly. Then it was gone. He pulled out his own folder and laid it on top of the stack. I filed a preliminary forgery complaint with the county recorder's office 4 days ago, he said. It's not active yet. I've kept it in a hold state, ready to move the moment we say go. He tapped the folder. The moment we trigger it, it becomes part of the official record. His name, the property address, the document in question. That doesn't go away. Maya nodded slowly. Combined with Odessa's signed statement about the trust conditions, Tobias continued, and the scapegoating messages, he glanced at Priya, who slid the 3rd stack of papers forward. He scanned the top page. A muscle in his jaw moved. He's been telling people for over a year that you were the reason his career stalled. 14 months, Maya said. Tobias looked at her. She met his eyes and held them. He exhaled once through his nose. Everything is documented. Everything is in order. He looked at both of them. You are ready. Maya called Damon that afternoon. She kept her voice soft, a little uncertain, the voice of a woman who was still thinking things over, still weighing her feelings. She had gotten good at that voice. I've been thinking about what you said, she told him, about wanting to actually fix things. Maya. His voice went warm immediately, eager. I meant every word of it. I know you did, she said. I want to talk properly, not just coffee. A real conversation. She paused just long enough. Odessa has been checking in on me since you left. I thought, maybe dinner at her house? It feels like a good space, neutral. A beat of silence on his end. She could feel him calculating, the way he always did when something felt slightly off. But then the calculation landed in his favor, because it always did in his own mind. Yeah, he said. Yeah, that makes sense, if that's what you need. It would help me, she said. Then I'll be there. Just tell me when. She told him Saturday, 7 o'clock. He said he wouldn't be late. Odessa had called Renee herself. Maya hadn't asked her to. Odessa had volunteered. She had made the call 2 days earlier, and she had reported back to Maya that evening in a short, unhurried voice. I told her I wanted to discuss the trust, Odessa said, that there were some conditions she should be aware of before things went any further. She was very interested. A pause. She will be there. On Saturday evening, Maya arrived at Odessa's house 40 minutes early. Tobias was already there. He stood in the front hallway with the folder under his arm, his suit jacket on, his face calm and steady. Odessa stood beside him in a deep burgundy dress, her silver hair pinned back, her posture absolutely unbothered. The folder went on the dining room sideboard, ready. She called me 20 minutes ago, Odessa said. She's on her way. Maya stood in the center of the living room and looked around at the space. The long table, the chandelier overhead casting everything in warm gold light, the 3 of them waiting, quiet and prepared. Then the doorbell rang, one clear, firm note through the house. Maya took a slow breath, in and out. She straightened her shoulders. Damon was here. Damon walked in like a man who had already won. He had dressed for it. Dark navy shirt, pressed slacks, the watch Maya had bought him 4 birthdays ago gleaming on his wrist. He smelled like the cologne he only wore when he wanted to make an impression. His hair was clean, his smile was wide. Grammy, He opened his arms and pulled Odessa into a hug she received without returning. "I'm glad you're here for this, I really am." Odessa stepped back and looked at him the way she always had, like she was reading something he didn't know he'd written. "Damon," she said. He turned to Tobias next. His smile tightened slightly. He hadn't expected Tobias, but he recovered fast, the way he always did, already rewriting the story in his head to make Tobias's presence something neutral, something fine. "Good to see you, man." He extended his hand. Tobias shook it, said nothing. Then Damon turned to Maya. His whole face shifted, softer, something that looked almost like relief. He crossed the room and took her hands in both of his, and his eyes went through the practiced motions of sincerity, warm, a little vulnerable, careful. "Thank you for this," he said quietly. "Really. I know I don't deserve it yet, but I'm going to." Maya looked at him. "Sit down, Damon." Odessa had set the table beautifully, the way she always did. White linen, candles, the good dishes. Damon sat down at it and visibly relaxed into the setting. This was familiar territory. Family. Warmth. A table that had always meant safety. He ate well, he talked, he filled the air with the sound of his own voice. Careful, optimistic, his words shaped to make himself sound like a man in progress rather than a man in trouble. He talked about the lessons he had learned, about clarity, about knowing what really mattered. Maya let him talk. She sat across from him and ate her food and nodded at the right moments. Tobias ate quietly. Odessa watched her grandson the way a person watches weather they have seen before. Damon did not notice the folder on the sideboard. Maya set down her fork. "I want to show you something," she said. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't change her tone. She simply stood, walked to the sideboard, picked up the folder, and carried it back to the table. She opened it and placed the first page in front of him. "This is your second checking account," she said. "The one you opened 8 months before you left. $38,000, Damon. 2 destinations." She pointed. "Renee's boutique, your development project." Damon stared at the page. The warmth drained from his face. Those are just business transfers, Maya. It's more complicated than—" She placed the second page on top of the first. "This is the second mortgage on our house, signed 7 months ago." She let him look at it. "My signature is on page 4. He opened his mouth. "I didn't sign it," she said. "Maya, listen. Priya compared the signature against everything I signed in the same month." She placed the side-by-side comparison flat on the table in front of him. "The loops are different. The pen pressure is different. It isn't even close." Damon pushed back from the table slightly. His hands came up, a gesture somewhere between defense and performance. "You're twisting this. You're making it sound like I was trying to protect our investments, both of our investments. You didn't want to be involved in the finances. You never—" "Damon?" Odessa's voice was not loud. It didn't need to be. The room went still. She folded her hands on the table and looked at her grandson without flinching. "The trust does not vest to you for 6 more years," she said, "and only if you remain married and in good standing. Those are my conditions. They are written. They are not flexible." She held his gaze. "Whatever you have promised anyone about that money, you do not have it to promise." Damon stared at her. Something moved behind his eyes, the particular panic of a man watching his exits close, one by one. "Grammy, don't," she said simply. The doorbell rang. Damon turned toward the hallway. His face went the color of old ash. Odessa rose calmly and walked to the front door. Maya stayed at the table, her hands folded, her eyes on Damon's face. She wanted to watch him understand what was about to happen. The door opened. Voices in the hallway. Odessa's measured and quiet, and then a younger woman's, polished and confident. Renee stepped into the dining room. She was dressed for a business meeting. Smart blazer, heels, a leather portfolio tucked under one arm. She had come prepared to discuss a trust. She had come expecting an older woman and a private conversation. What she found was a table full of people, a spread of documents, and Damon. Her eyes moved from the documents to Maya, to Tobias, to Damon. She stopped. "What is this?" she said. Damon stood up. "Renee, why are you here?" Her voice cut clean through his. "You told me you weren't coming to this." The portfolio slipped slightly under her arm. She grabbed it. Her eyes dropped to the pages on the table, the account records, the mortgage documents, the side-by-side comparison, and something shifted in her face as she began to read what was in front of her. The boutique receipts. Her boutique. She looked up at Damon slowly. Her voice had gone very quiet. "Is that my business account?" "It's not what it looks like." "You told me that money was an investment." Her voice cracked on the last word, just slightly. "You told me you believed in what I was building." "I did. I do." "You mortgaged her house." She pointed at Maya, her hand unsteady. "You forged her name, and you used the money on my store, while you were still married." She stepped further into the room. "While you were coming back to me last month, telling me you had a plan, that things were falling into place." Her voice rose. "Did you tell her that too? That things were falling into place?" "Renee, just let me explain." "Explain what, Damon?" Her voice filled the room. "Which part?" Odessa did not sit back down. She stood at the head of the table and looked at her grandson the way a judge looks at someone they have already decided about. There was no anger in her face, no grief, just something final. "I want to be clear," she said, "so there is no confusion later." The room was silent. Even Renee had gone still. "As of today, Damon is stripped of any early access to the family trust. Every provision I had previously considered accelerating is revoked." She spoke slowly, each word deliberate and clean. "He will not see a single dollar from this family until the conditions are met in full, if they are met at all." Damon's jaw tightened. "Grammy, you can't just—" "I already have." She turned and looked at Maya. "And I have signed a written statement in support of Maya's forgery complaint. My statement confirms that I do not believe Maya authorized that second mortgage. I believe she was forged, and I will say so to anyone who asks." Damon pushed back his chair and stood. His voice climbed. "You are doing this because you've already made up your mind. You've been talking to her." He gestured sharply at Maya. "She came to you and poisoned all of this, and you just believed her over your own—" "Sit down," Tobias said. It wasn't loud, but there was something in it that stopped the room cold. Tobias stood, straightened his jacket, and looked at Damon across the table with the kind of patience that had nothing warm in it. "The forgery complaint was filed with the county recorder's office 4 days ago," he said. "It is not a threat. It is not leverage. It is done." He paused. "A detective may contact you as early as next week. Given the documentation we have provided, the forged signature, the forensic comparison, the funds transfer records, the DA's office will likely pursue this. Forging a spouse's signature on a mortgage document is a felony in this state, Damon. 1 count minimum, possibly more depending on how they classified the transfer." Damon's mouth opened. Nothing came out. "You may want to call an attorney," Tobias added. "A real one, not a friend." Renee had not moved from the spot where she'd stopped when she first walked in. She still held her leather portfolio under one arm. Her blazer was perfectly straight, but her face had gone through several things in the last 2 minutes, and what had settled on it now was not sadness. It was not heartbreak. It was the flat, clear look of a woman who had just understood exactly what she had walked into and who had put her there. She looked at Damon. "You used my store," she said. Her voice was quiet now, even, almost worse for it. You used her house to fund my store without telling either one of us, while running both of us at the same time. She tilted her head slightly. And you thought that was a plan. Damon opened his mouth. Renee, I was trying to keep everything together. If the boutique had worked, if the development deal had come through. I'm done, she said. Just that. 2 words said the same way you'd close a drawer. She looked at Maya once. A complicated look. Not friendly, not hostile. The look of someone absorbing something they couldn't fully name yet. Then she walked out of the dining room. Her heels were steady on the hardwood floor. The front door opened and closed, and she was gone. The room was quiet. Damon stood at the table alone. No one was standing with him. No one moved toward him. He looked at Odessa, who had already looked away. He looked at Tobias, who was straightening the papers on the table with calm, unhurried hands. He looked at Maya. Maya was already standing. She picked up her jacket from the back of her chair and held it without putting it on. She looked at her husband of 12 years. She looked at him the way she looked at a file she had closed. You told me I would never survive without you, she said. That you built my life. That without you, I'd fall apart. Damon said nothing. 3 months ago, I was sitting in this house thinking my marriage was solid, she said. Today, I have my home, my name on a forgery report, a consulting contract that pays more than I made last year, and every document I needed to prove exactly who you are. She held his gaze. You didn't build my life, Damon. You slowed it down. She put on her jacket. We're done. The attorney will handle the rest. She turned and walked toward the front door. Tobias picked up the folder and followed her without a word or a backward glance. Damon stood at the dining room table and did not move. The candles were still burning. The good dishes were still out. The white linen was still pressed. His watch caught the light. Through the front window he watched Maya walk down Odessa's front steps, Tobias beside her, both of them unhurried. He watched them reach the car. He watched Maya laugh at something Tobias said. The sound of it didn't reach him through the glass, but he saw it. Then the car pulled away, and the street was still, and Damon stood alone in his grandmother's house with nothing he had come there to keep. The conference room on the 14th floor had floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city. Maya had chosen the office for that reason, not for the view exactly, for what the view reminded her of every morning when she walked in, that she was here, that she had built this. The sign on the frosted glass door read, Whitfield Consulting Group, Fraud Detection and Claims Analysis. 6 months old, already carrying 4 active contracts and 2 more in negotiation. Maya had started it with a laptop, a freelance license, and a filing cabinet full of skills she had spent 12 years being told didn't matter. She stood at the head of the conference table now, a projected spreadsheet glowing on the wall behind her. Across the table sat 2 men in suits from a regional property insurance group. One was taking notes. The other hadn't stopped nodding since she started talking. What you're looking at here, Maya said, clicking to the next slide, is a repeating pattern in your commercial claims from 2021 to 2023. 3 different contractors, same documentation format, slightly varied signatures, but the same error on line 14. She tapped the screen. Most people would miss it. I didn't. The note-taker looked up. How long would it take your team to audit the full archive? 6 weeks, Maya said. Maybe 5. The other man, the one who had been nodding, leaned forward and folded his hands. We've had 3 firms look at this data over the past year. None of them caught what you just showed us in 20 minutes. Maya smiled. It was a small smile, unhurried. I know. After the clients left, Priya appeared in the doorway with 2 coffees, kicking the door closed behind her with one heel. How'd it go? We'll have a signed contract by Thursday. Priya grinned and handed her a cup. That's the 3rd one this month. They sat across from each other the way they always had, Easy, no performance. Priya had joined the firm 2 months in, trading her position at a downtown accounting group for something that felt like it actually mattered. She had not regretted it once. Maya knew this because Priya had said so, plainly without being asked. That was the thing about Priya. She said what was true. Odessa called me this morning, Maya said. Priya raised an eyebrow. Good call or information call? Both. Maya wrapped both hands around her cup. She wants us to come to Sunday dinner. Says she's been making too much food for one person. That woman never made too much food in her life, Priya said. She just wants company. I know. Maya paused. I want to go. That was the part that still surprised her sometimes, that she wanted to go. That Odessa, who had once been nothing more than Damon's grandmother, had become something Maya hadn't expected. Not a replacement for anything lost, something new. A woman who called to check in, who asked real questions, who once told Maya over the phone, without sentiment or flourish, "You deserved better than what that boy offered. I'm sorry it took this long for someone to say it out loud." Maya had not cried, but she had held the phone tightly for a moment after Odessa hung up. Tobias had come by the house the previous weekend to help restain the back deck. He had not offered. He had simply shown up with sandpaper and stain and said, "Tell me where you want to start." They had worked for 4 hours side by side, mostly quiet, talking in the comfortable, scattered way that people talk when they don't need to fill the silence. He had teased her about the new patio furniture. She had told him he was terrible at cutting clean lines with a brush. He had said, "I am a contract attorney, not a painter." And she had laughed so hard she almost knocked over the can. The house was hers now, clean and clear, no second mortgage threatening it, no legal cloud hanging over the deed. Maya had walked every room of it in those first weeks after the dinner at Odessa's, not out of nostalgia, but out of something closer to reassessment. She had looked at the kitchen she had cooked 10,000 meals in, the living room where she had folded herself small to keep peace, the hallway where she had once stood holding a hotel receipt and said nothing. She had painted the hallway a deep, warm green 2 months ago. She did not spend much time thinking about what the marriage had cost her. That wasn't avoidance. It was just that the math of grief only told her what she had lost, and she was more interested now in what she knew. She knew she was good at her work. She knew she was sharper than anyone had credited. She knew that the skills she had used to quietly, methodically dismantle 12 years of Damon's deception were the same skills that were now building her something real. Damon lived in a 1-bedroom apartment on the east side of the city, a 30-minute drive from the house he no longer had any claim to. The development deal had not recovered. His name in real estate circles now carried a quiet, specific kind of damage, the kind that spreads without anyone having to shout. A few colleagues had distanced themselves. One had forwarded a copy of the county filing to a mutual contact without comment. That was enough. His attorney had quoted him a retainer that made him sit down when he heard it. The forgery case was still open. The DA's office had been in contact twice. He had not told anyone in his family how bad it was. There was no one left to tell, really. He sat in his apartment on a Tuesday afternoon with a stack of legal correspondence on the coffee table and a view of the parking lot, and the silence around him was the particular kind that comes when everything you built collapses at once, and no one comes to check on you. No one called. No one knocked. At the end of the day, Maya turned off the projector and stood alone in the conference room for a moment. The city stretched out behind the glass. The late afternoon light was coming in at a low angle, gold and unhurried, settling across the table and the chairs and the frosted door with her name on it. She thought about what Damon had said on the night he left. The way he had stood in their bedroom doorway with his bag over his shoulder, so certain of the damage he was leaving behind. "You'll never survive without me. I built the life you have." She looked out over the city, over the contracts on the table, the name on the door, the life she had assembled from the inside out. She hadn't just survived without him. She had never needed him at all. Thank you for watching until the end. If this story meant something to you, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. I've got 2 stories on the screen that you have to watch next. Have a great day!